Zhiyun has just released their two newest LED lights, the MOLUS G60 and the MOLUS X100. I'm holding two replicas here that are 1/5 of what the actual size will be, but I'm sorry? Oh, I've just been told that these are in fact the actual lights. The G60 is a 60-watt bi-color LED light that runs off of DC power or USB-C, and the MOLUS X100 is a whopping 100-watt bi-color light that can run off of DC power or a proprietary battery grip. These are both shockingly bright lights considering how tiny they are, which makes them perfect for narrative film projects, interviews, YouTube and live stream setups, or really any setup where you need a lot of light in a small space. We're going to test some of these setups a little bit later, but first let's dive into the individual lights themselves. The G60 is a 60-watt bi-color LED light that is one of the smallest and lightest lights out there that is capable of achieving such a high level of brightness. That level being 2,376 lux at 1 meter without a reflector, or 11,194 with the included reflector. And regarding that smallest and lightest part, the G60 weighs just 300 grams and measures in at 90.6 by 67 by 66.95 millimeters. A little insider baseball here, but this is the first monolight I've ever covered here in the studio where the dimensions were provided to us in millimeters. This thing is tiny. And luckily the quality of the light itself is not impacted by this at all, as the G60 boasts a CRI of 96 and a TLCI of 97 for excellent color rendition, and its color temperature range extends from 2700 to 6500 degrees Kelvin. Now regarding the physical layout of the light itself, Zhiyun keeps the G60 as simple as it is small, and once again, it's very small. A power button on the top and two knobs for brightness and color temperature on the back are the only controls that you have to worry about. Also on the back, you have an input for DC power supply, and on the right side, you have a USB-C port for firmware updates and power supply. If you're going the USB-C route for power, however, Zhiyun recommends using a charger equal to or greater than 100 watts that supports PD fast charging protocol. Otherwise, the light won't be able to hit its 100% peak brightness. For modifiers, the G60 uses the proprietary ZY mount and comes with a mini reflector and dome diffusion. But Zhiyun also makes a Bowens mount adapter that comes standard in the G60 combo pack, allowing all of your Bowens mount diffusion to work with this light as well. Finally, the light includes a built-in bracket with a 1/4-inch threaded hole at the bottom, meaning that right out of the box, you can mount the G60 to desktop tripods, light stands, or any other compatible stand. And while there will be app support via Bluetooth that we didn't get to test here, the G60 does not have a direct battery powering option. But if you're interested in that latter point and want a light that can get even brighter, Zhiyun's second new light might just prove illuminating. X100. The MOLUS X100 is a high-power 100-watt LED bi-color pocket fill light that is, and I say this affectionately, one of the weirdest looking lights I've ever seen. That's not a bad thing, however, as the design of this light allows it to do some truly unique things that I haven't really seen on any other comparable light. First, the brightness though. At 1 meter away, the X100 can hit 3,881 lux, and with the reflector, that jumps to 17,317 lux. Size-wise, it's just as impressive as the G60, weighing just 385 grams and measuring 52.8 by 94 by 61 millimeters. Like the G60, the X100 also uses the ZY mount with the same options for adapting Bowens mount accessories, meaning that it can play just as nicely with Zhiyun modifiers as it can with standard Bowens. The CRI and TLCI of the X100 remain impressive as well, coming in at 95 and 97 respectively, and the X100 also features a color temperature range of 2700 to 6500 degrees Kelvin. From here though, the X100 starts to break away and becomes a truly unique beast, and the best place to start with this uniqueness is with its powering options. Just like with the G60, the X100 supports DC or USB-C for power delivery, but the X100 can also be powered with an optional grip battery accessory. This chunky boy snaps onto the right side of the X100 and allows you to not only mount it to light stands for a cable-free setup, but even use this 100-watt light completely handheld. At full brightness, the grip provides 30 minutes of battery life and has a battery indicator button at the top to check your status on the fly, and it fully charges via USB-C in about 2.5 hours. But one cool bonus with the battery grip is that it supports power out via USB-C as well, meaning you can use it to power your smartphone or other accessories when not using it with your X100. Like the G60, the X100 has a very simple button layout with a power button and two knobs on the side for brightness and color temperature, but there's also a unique music mode available. By long pressing the color temperature knob, you activate this music mode, which causes the light to change with the music beats of whatever song is playing. So for this first test setup, the goal was to recreate our sort of standard studio lighting using only these tiny little Zhiyun lights. Now, obviously, you can probably tell, we cheated a little bit. We did keep the accent lights that we had. We kept these tubes of lights here. We kept our spotlight with our little pattern on the backdrop there. But the goal was to recreate the sort of standard 3-point lighting using only Zhiyun lights. Now, I'll be honest with you, until I literally set this up just now, I didn't have any idea how this lighting was going to look, but I'm honestly genuinely impressed. I've got the X100 here with a Bones adapter and a softbox as our key light. I've got a very tiny little M40 fill light here. Now the M40 is a light that Zhiyun came out with a few months ago, a tiny little pocket light powered by USB-C, and I have this turned down about as low as it can get. It's actually pretty powerful. It's about 3 feet away from me, and that's the fill light. And then I have the G60 up there as my hair light, and I set that color temperature to 2700 because I wanted there to be a little bit more contrast, just, I don't know, zhuzh it up a little bit. So that is the 3-point lighting setup, and honestly, I didn't necessarily think it would work to recreate our very expensive, very elaborate lighting setup using only these lights. Now, obviously, as I'm sure you can tell, it's not a one-for-one for what was set up before, but the fact that you can even get away with this means that if you had like a small studio space and needed decent, powerful lights in a very, very confined space, you can absolutely get away with it with these lights. All right, so the goal for this lighting setup was to do something a little bit harsher and more dramatic, mainly to test out just the sheer power of these lights. And there is no cheating in this setup. I am in a pitch black studio right now with nothing but 3 very tiny lights lighting me right now. But there's a few things that we set up differently outside of that compared to the previous test. So what I've got right here is the X100 with the XY mount reflector as my key light here. I ended up keeping the G60 where it was. It just ended up looking very nice. And then the M40 right here is my fill light. So one other thing we did differently with this setup is for the X100, instead of running it off of the grip battery, we ran it off of USB-C power using a MacBook Pro charger. And the result was interesting because, once again, Zhiyun recommends using something with 100 watts or more power delivery for a charger in order to have this work at 100% power. And with the MacBook charger that we have, it's a 90-watt charger, which let us get to 90% brightness. So this light, once again, is at 15%, so it's a non-issue currently, but if we wanted to crank it all the way up, it would go up to 90%. So battery grip will get you to 100%. AC power will get you to 100%. USB-C will get you to 100% if it is over 100 watts. But it's nice that you still have the option to use this with smaller wattage chargers and still be able to power it. Because once again, as you can see, even at just 15% brightness, this is an absolutely usable light. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention in the last lighting setup was talking about fan noise in these lights. So when I saw how small these lights were, I was worried that the fans would have to kick in overtime to keep such tiny, tiny little lights from overheating. But I gotta say, they're also very quiet. Now, the fans do kick on. I will say, when I had the X100 at 100% brightness, after about 10 minutes, the fans kicked on. But right now, at 15%, the fan, as far as I can tell, is not even on. The G60 up here, I can't hear any fan, and I'm fairly close to it. It's maybe 5 or 6 feet away from me. All of this is to say that unless you have these lights at maximum brightness, extremely close to your audio source, to your microphone, you're probably not going to hear any fans, which was the last sort of worry that I had that was assuaged from this test. There's a ton of lights out there for video creators, and in order to stand out from the crowd, a light needs to offer something that its competitors don't. With the MOLUS G60 and X100, Zhiyun lays out its argument pretty simply. Extremely tiny, yet incredibly bright lights that are color accurate and reasonably priced. The G60 and X100 are great options as key lights in tight live streaming / YouTuber studios thanks to their small footprint, even with diffusion. And for professional video shooters on the go, these are excellent fill and hair lights to bring with you thanks to the fact that they let you pack an additional super bright 60 or 100 watt light that can fit in your coat pocket. Whatever your application though, both the G60 and X100 are low profile and powerful lights that would make excellent additions to your lighting kit. But what do you think of Zhiyun's new LED lights? Let us know in the comments below. Seriously, we read them. I'm Nick with B&H. Stay creative. So dizzy.